Hey all, Scott here. Well, I'm back. It's the new year. It's 2015. I hope you all had a safe and happy holiday season for whatever you're doing over the past couple of weeks, and I'm back. I'm finishing off my Sevastopol. Yes, this is the finale of the retrofit. We finally got it finished, and you will see it at the end. But first things first is I was having a little trouble with my scalpel ship. Namely, I kept bumping into things and things would break off it, so I redesigned my utility ship, and now it's been dubbed the Surgeon. Same sort of functionality, but more welders and more grinders and a little bit heftier, with a little bit of armor just to prevent it from getting busted up when I bump into things. As you can see here, it helped me start putting more touches on the Sevastopol. I'm actually getting fairly close at this point to finish, and one of the things I was doing in the Sevastopol was I was actually building it in there to test out the sort of fighter construction system that I had constructed. I ran into some serious issues with it, mostly with the instabilities of pistons again, braking, especially when I was in flight. So that system got reworked and redesigned, and with the accompanying of some new mods that I picked up, simplified. And that's really what helps it out. Space engineers, until they get some of these, especially multiplayer issues, sorted out, you really got to keep your designs fairly simple, or they tend to break apart. If you get too many articulating components or rotors or pistons, it just kind of seems to add to instability, which is unfortunate because those are really what the part of it that I really enjoy was creating weird machines. So some big things have happened. One of these big things is that Keen Software House announced a new game called Medieval Engineers. Now, I've only seen a couple of trailers for it. I haven't really done much beyond that, but I intend to look into it a little bit further soon, hopefully. Now, I'm also just working on, back to the Sevastopol here, I'm just working on a little sort of drone holding bay, and I'm kind of putting the top section of metal in there, basically filling it out as best I can, just to kind of protect the components in there. There's a lot of plumbing up in there that I need to sort of protect, and with that huge grind bend on the back, it just to add a little bit more support in case it takes a bump or something like that happens. But yeah, Medieval Engineers. Interesting idea. I took a look at some of the videos. I haven't really done much with it beyond that. Debating getting into it, because I've also been debating getting into some other games, and I've been revisiting some of the older games that I've been playing a while back too, and I'm actually going to take a little break from Space Engineers after this video and feature something new on my channel. I'm going to be looking at some games that I played. I've started playing Warframe again. I'm going to start trying to figure out how to do a video for that game, because I do enjoy that game. However, it's kind of hard to do videos for because it's a lot of repetition. Nevertheless, I'll figure something out. The other thing is I've got another YouTuber that's a friend of mine that's interested in doing some joint stuff, so I'm going to be working on that soon. Don't know what that's going to entail yet. And on top of that, I'm also working on something special for Space Engineers that I'm not quite ready to announce, but it will come shortly. Nevertheless, so as you can see, I'm just adding more plumbing inside the front bay here. It's still red from the first iteration. I do end up painting it again. The perspective of this is a little wonky because I'm actually flying from the outside of my ship, so it was a little weird. So yeah, that's kind of cool. I got some interest for my gaming chair video. Got an interesting question about tying in my tablet to the rest of my system, and then I got a response from another gentleman who interested me, or twerked me to take a look at this piece of software, and I have. I'm not going to talk too much about that either, because I got to spend some time with it before I really get to understand it, but nevertheless, that's what's going on here. I am traveling a fair bit more with work, so unfortunately the videos may come a little slower. But if you're looking in the video right here, you can see all these welders that are sort of built on pistons and stuff of that nature. They were my fighter construction idea. The idea was that this would be a support carrier that would be able to construct fighters or repair fighters quickly in the event that they were lost or damaged when we were capturing things. So that actually kind of worked out well. I was nearly done when the exploration portion of Space Engineers was released, which was right on Christmas Day, I believe. Took a look at it. I was like, cool. And then I haven't really done much with it since. It looked interesting, but again, I still had some other things to deal with at the time, and with Christmas being busy and with lots of travel, I haven't really done much with exploration yet. So Sevastopol's ready to go as of now, so what will probably happen is I'll be taking a break from Space Engineers for the next little while, playing some other games, and then when I come back to it, we will start using the exploration mod. Probably move everything from this world that we want to keep over to the next one, and then continue on forward. I've also been debating picking up some other games too, like I know there's a couple of guys that have mentioned I should try Elite Dangerous. I've been thinking about it, and I've had a few other things to look into. This is just me testing out a probe that I was going to put in the Sevastopol. This was going to be my grinding system. It was originally designed as 3 small probes that could be attached to create one larger probe that could then be attached to another larger probe that would make a very large probe. As you can see from this is a perspective from the camera that I have in there. There's merge blocks between them, and they basically can be divvied up into smaller units to salvage. But the idea worked okay, but I had some problems with it. I ended up going with a simpler design because when I was breaking the probes off and using them, it ended up becoming kind of an issue to juggle them. But nevertheless, it wasn't too bad. I did like the idea. I just incorporated it into a better probe, I think, later. I'll get more into that stuff because that I kind of skipped over because I had some issues to work with it. I'm just building the other side of the probe bay in here. As you can see from this video, there isn't a lot much left to do. That's just basically finishing off all the little bits and ends and pieces. And it's kind of tragic. I made you guys wait almost 4 weeks to get the finale, although all 6 or 7 of you that watch my videos, I kid. But yeah, I mean, this was the first shakedown of the Sevastopol, moving out of dry dock after everything was built, and something exploded. Something went boom. So I had to start digging around looking for it. And keep in mind, I've got this video sped up 2 times as well. So now you can start to get an idea of what the layout was, and I eventually found out that this sort of catwalk system that I had above the one section that I was using fell apart as soon as I converted it to a ship and moved it. So I had to go and take it out and repair a bunch of stuff that happened, and I had to redesign that, which is okay. As you can see, there's a bunch of damage here. It just kind of... Catwalks were not meant to be attached to catwalks that are adjacent to each other. They just don't seem to hold together well. And that's what happened here, is my catwalk system kind of blew up, and I had to pull it all apart and fix the damage and redo it. It's not a huge problem. Catwalks work great if they're attached to a block next to them or something along those lines. But same with the stairs. Just to keep it a little more... add a little more stability. Just make sure that you can attach things to each side. I did do this as just basic blocks initially, but then I kind of came up with a slightly better idea, which you'll probably see a little later. As you can see, I kind of worked on it a bit. Moving back and forth. Tried to create more space. I mean, that was the one thing about the first Sevastopol, was that most of the decks were very tight and it felt very claustrophobic, which... you kind of expect from a ship, but I still wanted to try to make the effort to make it feel a little more open using decks and using catwalks. Nevertheless, we got to fix. Second shakedown run of the Sevastopol. This time nothing exploded, which is great. So this was a speed test, acceleration test, maneuverability test, all that wonderful stuff. It's making sure all the thrusters fired, making sure everything sort of worked, watching speed, just general shakedown. If anything broke, I was wanting to see it here, and it worked out really well. I mean, again, nothing broke down. I've got a new gun on the nose of it, and I've got a new hole in the front of it to accommodate a torpedo launcher, which I'll show you guys a little later. And like I said, it kind of worked the second time around. I had no major failures. I did have to take the lid off the grind bed because, again, pistons kept breaking and I couldn't get it to stay on. It just kept failing and failing, and it was just kind of too bad, really. Nevertheless, I was able to use the grind bed, use the Sevastopol, and with the assistance of other fighters and or probes and or salvaging equipment, it still worked fairly well. Now I'm starting to eyeball this flight, and everything's working good, but I'm starting to say, you know what, that red in a situation is just too bright. I mean, it was done by Raven Knight back in the day, and I think with the new ship redesign, and with the new mods and parts, it needed a facelift. So I was going to think about changing its color here soon too. And you'll see what I did. Now, coming into our station, that station's starting to get really busy with all the ships and activity that's going on around it, which is cool. I mean, that's kind of why we built it. It was kind of our home in space, and I must say thank you again to Raven Knight for putting all that effort into it. Definitely worked out well for most part. And we've got more ships that we've captured sitting in the boneyard, and we've got other support craft, and wow, I mean, just looking back on this experience in the last probably 4 or 5 months that I've been playing this game, it's just kind of like every time we needed a new job done, we built a new ship for it. And I mean, considering we had about 5 guys going on this this game at one point, it was pretty cool. But nevertheless, it did start to get kind of laggy and stuff due to all the entities that were there and whatnot, but that's okay. Still had little bits and pieces of Sevastopol left to do, but at least it was mobile and was able to get things done. I wanted to use the large docking port mod for the back of it. However, I ran into a major problem, is that once I de-docked the Sevastopol from it, as soon as I re-docked with that thing, all the pistons and rotors exploded. Couldn't use it. So this was a new fighter that we built. It's called Symphalion. It's using the Wake Bomb mod from, I think it's from a CSD Wake Bomb or something. There'll be a link to it in my comments, but we were just trying it out on some derelict hulks. And it's a pretty neat little weapon. Basically, you have to accelerate at something with, at a certain speed. You gotta be going faster than 15 meters a second, and the faster you're going when you let the Wake Bomb go, the faster it goes. And it's a pretty powerful little missile sort of weapon. We were just kind of getting the hang of it here and kind of getting an idea of how much damage it does, and it actually worked out really well. Quite good. So we do a couple of more runs here at this this ship here to see how it goes. Impressive little toy. I like it. And it fits on a small fighter, needs a big door to fill it, and the bombs are pretty expensive, but I think that's probably good for balance reasons. If you're looking, you can see the new paint job on the Sevastopol, but I won't point it out yet. And my buddy let one of his Wake Bombs go here just as slow as he could, just to see how it did. And yeah, even at really slow speed, as long as it makes contact, it does do a fair amount of damage, especially to interior plate and light armor. Pretty cool little weapon. I liked it. And good old Drayden's been working on his driller again, and it's been even upgraded one more time to... Well, nothing in Space Engineers has ever really finished, to be honest, but he wanted to show off this incredibly round hole that he can cut into an asteroid with it right now. No rough edges, no burrs. It looks like a drilling hole should. The ship is very powerful. It's got a lot of space for storage, and that drill head just cut such a smooth hole. It's really cool. And finally, we took the Sevastopol out for a test run. We took a ship down, and this is me trying to consume it with the help of Tyson Powered. He's kind of pushing this wreck into the grind bed as I'm just slowly supervising it to make sure that nothing goes weird. We get a few hiccups, and nothing's 100% perfect, but overall, the Sevastopol turned into a really good support vehicle. With the addition of, again, CST's, I think it's a rack gun, or heavy gun that he built for the large ships. It's got a lot of long range punch. I've added some Jemadar cannons from the Star Trek Disruptor mod. Again, there'll be links to these in the comments. And on a pivoting turret that I put on the nose of the ship, so I could turn the main gun like a destroyer, like a naval destroyer would. And I wouldn't have to have something directly in front of me. I could just basically side up to somebody and fire the heavy weapon into them. And then most of the turrets that I've added are either just for defense or, you know, taking out missiles. They're not for direct confrontation. I'm not going to use this to basically get into a shooting fight with somebody. This thing will hit stuff at long range and support smaller craft. That was the design of it. And then, you know, battlefield recovery of material. that was the job. It's done it really well. As you can see, it's not perfect. We had some kinks to work out. We lost a chunk of it. Thankfully, it didn't bounce off anything important, but with the huge tractor beam I've got in the front of it, I was able to capture it, that big piece again, then let her go, and then I could just fly underneath it and recapture. And this time, I tried to do most of it without too much support from the other craft. And keep in mind, this is also going at 2 times extra speed, so I'm not doing these maneuvers that as recklessly as this looks. I went with a dark gray and an orange sort of stripe on it because I really think that makes it look nice and aggressive. Even though it's not the most aggressive ship in our fleet. We had the Sulaco, which I featured in my last video, which is more of a assault craft. I call it a destroyer, and I call it my destroyer escort. Actually, is what I tell Drayden when we're flying together. And then I've got my 2 buddies that are the Dude and Tyson.Powered, which both are kind of fighter jockeys. And we've got the little Symphalian, which is our newest heavy fighter that we constructed to try to help support the Sevastopol. Slowly grinding away. As you can see, I mean, it works. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it did the job it was intended for. We had our problems, we had our ups or downs. It took a long time to find something that worked, but once we did, it works pretty well. With the success of the Sevastopol, I've been thinking about other projects I want to do in Space Engineers. I will be taking a short break from it, not putting it down forever, obviously, but I do think there needs to be some time between me and my next series on it, mostly because we ran into some pretty horrendous multiplayer issues with it. And in truth, I really wanted to play Space Engineers with my buddies. We were working on a dedicated server. We haven't got that quite sorted out yet, but hopefully when we do. But nevertheless, with the multiplayer issues and bugs that have been experienced by myself and by the community as a large, I'm kind of scared to be playing a huge multiplayer campaign or something along those lines beyond what we've done until some of these issues get resolved. I'm really hoping that Keen will focus on those issues because those are really, really frustrating at times. And as much as it pains me to say that, because I really do love the concept of this game, what they've got working is great. I know the game is still in alpha. You know, I'm not expecting things to be perfect overnight. But those are just one of those issues that I'm having a great deal of time struggling with. Me and my buddies, especially when they try to go to ships and they die because the ships are bouncing around, positional information is problematic or failing or whatnot, and issues behind the scenes that are just basically, you know, we spend a lot of time repairing stuff simply because a desync issue caused damage to one of our ships. One of our ships got lost. We've had numerous fighters or small ships that just kind of randomly exploded and started floating off into space. We're not sure why or how they happened. The only thing we can figure is that some kind of desync issue caused some kind of strange impact, and as such sent some of our fighters careening off into the distance. It's frustrating. I mean, when I started playing Minecraft years ago, I don't remember issues quite that bad. Especially, like, I mean, the multiplayer was good, but the multiplayer still had problems, but nothing, you know, seemed to disappear or randomly explode. I could be wrong, or I could have just been lucky. Who knows? Nevertheless, I do want to give Space Engineers some time so that it can kind of become a little bit more stable. That is by far and wide the only complaint I have about this game right now, is just that the multiplayer stability. And I know it's going to be a tough issue to fix. Had a little bit of experience with multiplayer code way back in the day, or not even just network code, I mean way back in the day, and it's tricky. Like, it's a tricky beast to master. So here's to Keen saying, you know what, keep up the great work. When the multiplayer gets a little bit more stable, I'll definitely be back. And I look forward to what you guys bring, and I especially hope that Medieval Engineers is another great success for you guys like Space Engineers is. So That'll be awesome. Trebuchet. Gonna be building trebuchets. Lots of trebuchets. Anyway. I guess I'm gonna have to buy medieval engineers at some point then, after I said that. Besides, launching a rock at my buddy when he's not expecting it will always amuse the living snot out of me. I guarantee it. Yeah, cool. Alright, so we're just finishing up the last of this little ship. I'm going to take you on a quick tour of the Sevastopol, and that will be the end of this series. I will have something new for you next time I make videos, and I'll try to do a series of them as well. Try to do kind of, I don't want to say seasons because that's a little too formal, and that's more for people that have a plan. They're going to do 24 episodes of this. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I kind of do this as it works out. So anyways, the final version of the Sevastopol, it still does not have the point defense turrets because we were having, again, issues with point defense turrets attacking friendly things, so I just left them off. The only armament it has on it right now is the great big nose gun, which I'll show you here soon. The bridge, which has 2 catwalk stairways that go down into the main hangar, which is underneath. There's a blast door piston here, so I can raise a blast door in front of the cockpit's windows in the event of combat to help prevent a lucky shot from taking out the bridge. These pistons house connectors, which are basically the connection points for fighters. And I'll probably do a specific Sevastopol video on just that at some point in the future. But as you can see here, using pistons and sensors and rotors, I'm able to create doors that open and close with the touch of a button. With the way it's set up too, is if there's anything obstructing it, those doors should stay open. There's no way that they should close on whatever's coming up, unless whatever's coming up is way too small. If you want me to go into more detail on how I pulled that off, by all means, send me a message on YouTube. I'll do a quick follow-up video that explains how they work in a little more detail. But it works out great. I put in the flashing lights just to kind of give it a little bit of an effect. The whole system's connected to the ship in terms of conveyors, so I can pull parts from everywhere else. With this vehicle being a support vehicle, definitely kind of helps things out. Run into some interesting issues out in the field that I tried to incorporate solutions to inside the Sevastopol. Used a lot of catwalks in here to give it kind of that spacious feel that I like. There's 2 bays, both of them can support fighters of approximately the same size. The center section nose actually has a torpedo constructor and or launcher, which I will show you later, shortly when I do the fishing tour. As you can see, the lighting is poor, but I like it that way. Actually, I had one of my buddies, the dude, kind of said, this is just too dark, and he went around slapping lights everywhere without even asking me. Nevertheless, now we get kind of into the engine room. I'm using some azimuth reactors because I needed them to power the azimuth things, as well as having some basic assemblies, refineries, and blast furnaces just to do some minor construction out in the field, i.e. ammunition. That sort of thing. These areas in the back are for salvage probes. I did intend to carry 2 of them, which I haven't yet constructed, but they'll be carried back there. They'll help me in the event I need to salvage stuff without assistance of other players. They'll all be remotely controlled. And I'll just do a quick fly around outside of the ship here, just to kind of look, again, with the aggressive orange striping, which I kind of like. 2 great big azimuth large thrusters, both forward and back, give it push and pull. I did the same sort of force forward as I did back because this ship also does, with the tractor beam, grab on and hold on to fairly large ships, and I wanted it to be able to do it quickly. The Jem'Hadar weapons and the rack big bore gun sitting on a rotating advanced turret that can provide fire support at long range. This is the Torpedo Construction Bay. As you can see here, I've got a torpedo ready to go. Using the projectors that came out a few weeks back, I can project a new one, construct it, cut off the umbilical cord, and then let her go. And the torpedo in this ship is not designed to impact and do damage. It's actually got a decoy in it to draw fire away from the smaller craft, the smaller support craft, the fighters and whatnot. So that was something that I thought I could throw in there. The only problem I've had with the torpedo launcher is because you can't really shoot it when it's moving, because you won't get any accuracy, and the other problem is you can't construct a new one while you're moving, so it's like a one-shot deal. which is too bad. I would have liked to have more, but nevertheless, maybe I can incorporate something else into the next version. Full top head overview. I do love the new look with the more balanced nacelles and its more angular, aggressive styling, and the paint job just bring it all out. The bottom side with the 2 drop bays, got for 2 fighters and or whatnot. And yeah, this is the Sevastopol. I hope you enjoyed the series. I thank you again for your support. Look forward to some new stuff from me in the near future. So anyways, you guys have a great time. I'll talk to you later. See ya.